has taken off, so I think we're good here.
Excellent. That's good news. So, you want to talk a little bit about teams, did you?
Yeah, I think it's a great topic because every time we bring somebody in to meet with us, especially brand new agents, brand new licensees, um, part of the groups that are out there trying to get brand new licensees to join them are, of course, teams, not just brokerages, but actual team leaders that are doing the same thing, basically attempting to run a brokerage within a brokerage.
Right. And of course, there has to be a carrot in order to bring people in.
Hmm.
And I've noticed that the typical carrot that teams use is the idea that they're going to give them leads. So,
Yes.
yeah. Um, but before we get to that, I just kind of wanted to say that people use teams very loosely because I don't know, there are many different kinds of teams.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
no doubt.
yeah, really, if we just talk about a married couple who are doing
Hmm.
real estate together, that's a team in a
Hmm.
sense, and that's actually separate in my mind from a
Hmm.
partnership where two people do not have a conjoined life or
Right.
maybe IRS number or whatever else. Uh, but they're similar in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
then
mean, Carrie Lee always asked me, "Hey, I'd like to work with you." I was like, "I'd rather stay married."
it
and,
is
and
difficult, and I
here
have
we
noticed.
are.
Yeah,
It's a high fail rate that ends in divorce quite a bit in this industry.
quite a bit, and
Hmm.
I would say that the successful married couple teams are few and far between. It seems easier than it actually is, and
Yeah,
it's usually successful if they take very different roles. You know, so
correct.
yeah.
Yep.
So there's that, but then there's also like the rainmaker team kind of idea where there's one person who people think that's the person they're dealing with, but they're really just there to get people to, either list or buy property with them, one or the other.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, a lot of times you're right. It's one of two things. It's a rainmaker, if you will, that does potentially a lot of lead generation from different sources, whether it's pay per click, different websites, paid leads, and they're fronting the money on that, hoping that the support system that they put in place, maybe a transaction coordinator, an assistant, and beyond that, they're hoping that buyers agents can convert those invested dollars into business.
and then there are other models. I mean, there are a couple that I know that work pretty well, where it's kind of it's kind of a amalgamation of those two. So the idea of a rainmaker lead, but in this case we're talking about the rainmaker being different people that have joined the team that are really not going to be doing the business. They really just have a sphere of influence, and they bring their sphere into the team, and then the team handles all the business. So that's a different model than having one person out front. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the time, the team lead tends to be the one and potentially the only one on the team that does the listing side of it.
Hmm. That's
I
usually
see that fairly frequently, and everybody else is a buyer's agent. They may be some of those buyer's agents, depending upon how they've structured it. They may have those buyer agents here and there as a co-list, if you will, depending upon the coverage, the showing demands of the property, if it's in-person showings, etc., what somebody wants to do as far as sharing the listing responsibility and communication, showings, follow up, so on and so forth.
And then there's another model where they really do break down the whole transaction, and each little piece of the transaction is handled by somebody else. Um, from a buyer's agent perspective, that's one of the most difficult ones to deal with because you never know
Unbelievable.
who you're
Yeah.
talking to. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that in the past where they have a transaction coordinator team,
Mhm.
which I have found I haven't seen one that works well yet.
Mm.
It's like a unicorn. Because none of those transaction coordinators are consistent in their communication or their knowledge about the file, and they're constantly referring to notes. And then you're getting emails. I mean, it's really hard when you're doing that with a team that has that because you're looking at emails and you're like, how many different people do I need to communicate with to get this one transaction done? And who does what? Like all of a sudden it becomes the buyer's agent responsibility to communicate with everybody in their orchestra team to make sure that nothing is missed. And you get conflicting messages from the people too. You know, you may have already sent stuff. This person's asking for the same thing. This person over here is asking for something they've had for 2 weeks. It's a bit of a disaster.
Having said that, I will say that as with pretty much anything in human endeavors, there are really great teams,
Hmm.
and there are far more that are not so great.
Correct. Mediocrity would be nice, but that kind of escapes the business quite a bit too. And I think so many people look at from the outside what they believe to be a successful team to be,
Mhm.
and they think, "Well, I can do that." Um, it's not that easy. It takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of structure, and you have to put a lot of things in place in order for your processes to hold true, or you'll grow it to the point of it collapsing as people leave, and then you're going to have to start all over. And most agents where they start building is with a buyer agent and or an assistant, and they don't even have anything in place for what the assistant is supposed to do because they themselves haven't put their processes in place in order to put it in front of somebody and have it done. And if you don't have your own recipe to be followed, then what are they to follow?
Mm.
And then you're just leaving it to chance. And I think most agents, by large, you know, by and large, are not great managers of people, and many of them have never. Not that it's a requirement to have a corporate level or professional level job, of course, but if you've never had that type of structure or had to follow certain things, um, you know, you don't know how to put that together because you've never seen it. And you do need a coach in that. You do need somebody that can help you to put those things together so that what you're delivering to clients is actually a favorable experience and a manageable process that has quality communication behind it. And you know, even if you have experience making, fast food, if something like that, at least you know that there's a process. You go through training, you know the steps in order to, like, I was a Kentucky Fried Chicken guy. I know a lot of people are laughing right now. Yeah, I've bred more chickens than I can shake a stick at. It was back when it was good. Um, Now it makes me hungry. I didn't have lunch.
Well, what I will
But there
say
was a
about Kentucky
process, whether
Fried
it was
Chicken, yeah,
original recipe or extra crispy, they were totally different things.
yes, absolutely. So something you said earlier that typically real estate agents are not the best managers, and there are a couple of reasons for that. I mean, people go into real estate specifically, typically because they want to run their own business. They want to be responsible for their own actions. They don't want somebody else telling them what to do, and that's all fine. But boy, when you have to turn into the person you don't want to be under, that can be a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times, I mean, the people that are here are the ones that got bounced out of the corporate club
Right. You know,
because they didn't adhere to the structure there, so they're going to jump into this. What makes you think they're going to be structured here? So,
in a former career, former position, I would say, I had quite a few agents come to me wanting to put together teams. And so my advice was several fold. And the first was, before you get married, please let's write the divorce papers. That's what I want
mhm.
to see. That'd
Mhm.
be number one. Number two, let's date for a year. Let's just pretend like you're a team, but not really be a team. And so that if things are not working out and you get all squirrely about what's happening, there's no harm done. You can just say, okay, well, that didn't work, and we can move on.
Yeah, it becomes a conflict, a bit of jealousy as to who is the most important on the team.
Mhm.
Is it the person that's creating the relationships, the rainmaker, or is it the person that's getting it done once that happens? Um, and both roles are important. But if ego starts to think one is more important than the other, then the relationship is due to fail. There's going to be a lot of resentment, and it's going to be a problem.
And the other piece, of course, is the pay.
Mhm. And that's all over the board.
It's all over the board, and I mean, we're not going to talk specific numbers here, but if the team exists inside of a brokerage, and I don't care what brokerage it is, and what model it is, that brokerage still has to make money too.
Of
Um,
course.
so if the brokerage is making money, but now you've set up a team structure inside the brokerage, uh, the team also has to make money, and there has to be a way for the team lead or the people who are creating the team to feel like it's worth their while. So presumably, they're going to make more money than the people they're hiring. And then at some point, I don't know. I mean, if I'm a person joining and I don't know anything, maybe I think it's worthwhile to give the vast majority of what I'm making to the brokerage and the team. Whereas if you look outside the team model, and you can get the proper training, why not just go there? When people used to come talk to me about should they join a team or not, I would say, why don't you start out on your own so that you have something to sell? So that when you get to the point of wanting to join a team, you actually have some value, because right now you don't have any value. But
Yeah.
just my point of view.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different ways to enter the business. And I think first somebody has to know um, who they are.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be honest with themselves as to who they are. Are they truly a self starter?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have the work ethic? Are they somebody that can go out and create relationships and can be relentless with regard to active prospecting, engaging people, and getting people into a pipeline of doing business, whether it's today, a year from now, 5 years from now? And are they good at managing all that? If so, a team is probably not the place for you.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there are quite a few people that have a misperception about who they are. They think that they're a self starter, they think they're a hard worker. And then months later, they're finding out I'm not really putting in all that many hours. And what have I really done over the last few months? And gee, my bank account looks a little light.
Mm-hmm.
With a new agent, whether they're on a team or not on a team, what do you tell agents if they're going to break away, if this is a full-time thing for them, they have no other income coming in? How many months of reserves do you recommend somebody have to feel like they have a chance with the runway you need
Are you
to get
asking
your
me?
career off the ground? Yeah, I'm asking you. How many months do you
Um,
recommend to people? I know what
so
I recommend.
So I say that you're starting a whole new business. And if you were to start a restaurant or a painting company or anything else, you have to know that it's unlikely you're going to have any income coming in. And when the income comes in, you need to put it right back into the business in one way or another in order to succeed. So, from my point of view as an entrepreneur who has started many businesses in my lifetime, you need to either have somebody who's going to support you, basically, or you need to have about a year's worth of income that you can set aside just to keep yourself alive until you actually start making money.
A much bigger cushion than I've told. I'm usually telling people you better have at least 6 months.
I think that's very light. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, if I look at the statistics of people who've been
Probably
able
in today's dollars. Maybe I'm demonstrating my age. a little bit
Yeah.
with regard to my advice. I'm still stuck in 25 years ago.
Okay, well, it ain't 25 years ago. Yeah.
No, it's not.
It's
Rents are a little higher.
rents are higher, food is higher, gas is higher, everything is higher. And so when people come in and talk to me and they say, I'm excited, I love houses, or I love people, that's great. But do you love working hard? And do you have enough wherewithal behind you to keep you going until, the magic happens? Because it ain't magic, it's something that you create.
I think people are quite shocked when they find out just how many hours you need to put into this, just how much you're on,
Mhm.
kind of on call. You have to be responsive. You really should be answering your phone and responding to communication. Quite a few people aren't very good at that at all.
I,
Um,
quite a few.
go days.
I'm sorry, but
Hey, I'd like to see the property you represent.
I call 5 agents that I want to talk to, and 4 of them have answering machines that say, um, tell us what your name is and what your business is, and then we'll decide whether or not to give you a call to let you through. And I think, who does that? I mean, if I'm a buyer or a seller and I get that message, I'm going to say, next.
Mm,
And then I go to the next one, the next one, the next one until I get somebody to answer the phone.
yeah. Could you imagine calling a restaurant, calling a hotel, or any of that? And that's what you receive.
Yeah. Hi, I'd like to book. I'm sorry, but are you really a person who wants to
Yeah.
eat here? Because we're not sure yet. So leave
Hmm.
your name and number, and we'll call you back if we decide that you can have a reservation at our establishment.
There is a restaurant here that actually does that in Phoenix. You can't get in the damn place.
Well, okay, that's one thing. I mean, certainly once you
Hmm.
become successful in a business, you can set your limits. And in fact, a couple of the most successful agents I have known are very particular and say, I won't
Yeah.
work with this kind of client. I won't go outside my area. My wherever I want to work, I won't go below this price point or whatever they do. And nice work if you can get it, but that doesn't happen overnight. It happens after a better part of a lifetime's worth of work to get to a position where you are in demand in that way. So yeah.
Yeah. I knew an agent at the beginning of my career that was charging people at listing appointments. They would charge them on the front end.
Yeah, well, I also
Because
know
he's like, hey, I'm not going in there to give you everything, all my knowledge. I already know my sales. I'm a market leader in the area. You can look at the scoreboard. I've done pretty dang well. I don't really need your business. You've called to meet with me. It's going to be X dollars. And if you don't use me, you don't use me. If you do, it's credited toward the compensation that I charge. But my time is valuable enough that I'm not just meeting with people to give you all my information.
I used to know a buyer's agent who, and this was in the slow time back in 2008 and 9, who basically said, I'm not going to drive you around the city without some money. So you want me to take you around and give you an introduction, $500 down, it'll be refundable to you should we close. Okay.
There are some agents that get the money on the front end when they list the property.
I've known one or two, and we won't mention the names.
Mm-mm. Still trying to figure out how the heck they did that because good luck.
Gift of gab.
Mm-hmm. Talk about prepaying for performance. Wow. All right.
Maybe that puts the fire under the under
Mm-hmm.
the agent to actually get the thing done.
What would in your experience, what would you say is the average life cycle of a team member? Because you know how that evolution works. You see agents all the time. They get on a team. They get to a point where they're starting to do well. They look at what they believe they're giving up They're not focusing on what they're receiving, what they're giving up in the split. And rather than going back to that team later and say, hey, based upon my close rate, maybe we can talk about my conversion rate, my close rate, my value to the team. I'd like to renegotiate a split. Instead, they go somewhere else. They're going to start their own team. I've seen this. I've seen this happen. I can do this. I can sit where you're sitting. You're not exactly going out on appointments anymore and out there hustling like we are. And you're just sitting back taking, however much.
So I would say it depends. If I look at partnership teams, if they make it through the first year, um, maybe a year and a half, then longevity is there.
Mm.
They'll go on for quite a while. If they get to the point where they can figure out their communication, their dance together, and if they're equal in their splits, with each other, then that's a structure that can last. Um, when I'm thinking about real rainmaker teams, there's sort of again a couple categories. And when I think about the ones I've known, if the person is compelling and if they pay their people really well, then that member will last for a long time. If I'm thinking about the Rainmaker teams where they hire 100 people or however many to call on the phones and, or run and do showings and do all of that, that is a short life. 3 months to a year.
It's a
That,
bit of a sweatshop at that point.
exactly. And I go, who would want to do that? Here's 500 numbers. Call them this week. Mm,
It sounds fun.
yeah.
Go back in the pond,
I'll buy
as
you
they
a, I'll buy
as
you
many people
a
call it in the
into the
business. Dip into the pond. Nobody owns these leads. These are the people that we haven't got anywhere with. But I think all too often people underestimate. Uh, we forget that the timing of somebody's purchase or sale is not based upon us. It's based upon them. And you just want to be at the right point in time when they're making the decision to make that move. And, unfortunately for a lot of agents, especially new ones, they have zero patience and they can't understand uh, delayed gratification, if you will. They're unwilling to nurture the relationship or water the tree to the point in time where it finally bears fruit. And they give up early and someone else is there.
So, of those 500 leads that we're calling here,
Hmm.
I don't know what percentage of those people are ready to sell or buy a house today, but it's very small. It may not be one out of the 500 that are being called. However, of the 500 people, at some point, all of them will be in the market or know somebody who is. So the real key, and I've watched this from a group of agents that worked on a different team structure that I knew very well. Um, the ones who were successful are the ones who repeatedly checked in and did not check in with, "Are you ready to sell your house?"
Always a great lead in.
Yeah. If instead it was, "Oh, geez, Marjorie, I called you, I don't know, 6 months ago or 5 months ago or 3 months ago, and we had a little chit chat. And you said that your daughter was going to college. How's that going?" And they just keep that conversation up, ask about what's going on, and it's a regular check in at some, I don't know what the regular would be, but regular. Those people get success because
Well, yeah.
eventually.
And people forget that when you're building that relationship and you're demonstrating things of value, you're providing them, if like quality information, they may refer you somebody. It may be a family member, a friend, a coworker. Hey, I'm not exactly in the market at this point in time, but I like you. You certainly sound like you know what you're doing, and I've got a coworker that I think is ready to do something. I'd like to make that introduction. And those things happen all the time.
Well, I've known a few people who were excellent at doing exactly that. And they never looked at their sphere of influence, the people that they called regularly, as people who would be selling or buying a house. They just kept the connection up and let these people know how they were doing and how when the information was appropriate, and somehow or another let the people they're talking to know that if they got a referral from them, that they would make them proud, so that that person knew if they referred so and so that it would be like the right thing. Oh, you've got to use such and such, and then turns out to be an excellent referral, and then their status goes up in their little community. So that works well. But
Yeah.
are you ready to sell your house? Does not work so well.
Yeah. I do think also markets like we've had over the last 4 years are really difficult on anybody in a leadership position in real estate. In other words, team leaders are feeling the same squeeze as owner brokers
Yeah.
because the transactional volume has come down.
Mm-hmm.
And when transactional volume, like we've had, has been reduced, and there's 30 to 40% less sides, less paychecks, if you will, from the marketplace, that's a whole lot less pie that's available to who's left. And that's not just in the broker community, but if you're doing paid leads, like we talked about earlier, pay per click, websites, maybe it's a portal that you're paying for a share of a zip code and you're hoping to get these contacts. Um, if you are at the same spend and the market contracts 30 to 40%, you have 30 to 40% less lead volume coming in. It's just a fact.
Well, this is a business problem. So, I mean, let's say if you've got a restaurant and times are great and people are going out to eat, they're not cooking their own food, and your booths are filled every day. You've got to go orders coming in. That's a great time. But every time has a season of plenty and a season of want. And somebody who has a business that's thinking about it in a business sense needs to set aside some of that money during the times of plenty, because the time of want is coming. And when you see the time of want coming, that's the time to cut back on the ordering. That's the time to trim down a little bit, make sure that you're not having too much staff there, because you won't be able to support them, because that may be the new normal for a while. So when you say 30 to 40%, well, it's been down 30 40% for 4 years. The reality is that what was happening before then was out of the ordinary, and we became used to something out of the ordinary, and people didn't think that this was going to change at any point anytime soon, and so nobody set aside the money and changed their business practices to weather what would seem to be a lean time. Now, when I'm looking at the last 4 years, I'm saying this isn't a lean time, it's just a new normal for this period of time. If you've adapted to it, you're fine. I mean, one of the agents we recently hired, by the way, says there's plenty of business out there and has demonstrated that. This is not a seasoned over a decade agent.
Well,
So,
I think yeah, you can pull back on the expenses, sure, but I think when you get these teams, um, it a lot of team leaders don't go to the team and say, "Hey, we have 30%, 40% less leads coming in. We have 30 to 40% less volume coming in as far as income." They don't cut 30 to 40% of the team.
right.
If they did that, it's like any company. It's a layoff.
Mm-hmm.
So you either do that, or you have to understand that you may have to spend
Yeah.
30% more to increase your volume of leads to get back to the basis where you were at before.
Correct.
You got to hope and coach the conversion level and the professionalism of the skill level of the team to a point where hopefully they're closing more business than they were before with the extra spend. But that's on you to do a higher level of coaching and skill building.
Yeah.
Otherwise, something's got to give. Something's going to break.
Yeah, well,
Something's got to give.
you can't expect people to live on nothing.
That's correct.
I mean,
And I
once
think,
you're an independent contractor on your own, it's up to you to figure out how to weather that, lean time. But when you've got a team, I think you're kind of responsible for your team members.
well, yeah, and then emotion comes into it, just like it does everything else. So if you have a team and you're not crystal clear with your transparency and your numbers and people's close rates and everything else, there's going to be a point in time where people are going to call you out for playing favorites and the good leads are going over here and I'm not getting this, and because you're not being transparent about lead flow, conversion rates, and skills. And yes, the highest performers need to be fed, but they justify that.
What to say?
Yeah, but if you don't share it with everybody, then it looks like you're playing favorites.
Mhm.
But it's all again going back to properly managing and communicating with people as to lead distribution,
Yeah.
and then going back to that.
Anyway, where to go from here?
Uh,
I mean, at
I don't
one
know.
point I would
I have
say,
to I have to smoke some chicken today.
oh, that sounds good.
I've got a little pollo asado going, so I've got all the citrus. The thighs are marinating in the citrus right now. Gonna do smoker time, pull it a little early, and then do a little bit of a char on it, and have some tacos tonight.
Sounds good. Oh, hmm. I don't have a smoker at home.
Yeah, and you're 2 hours away, so it makes it.
Hours away, and plus I'm cooking for one at the moment, so I tend to make my meals a little bit more compact and a little less time intensive. No less good.
Yeah. Hey, so last time, one of the other things I thought I would bring up and have you chat about was, you recently had your day of silence, which was last Friday.
Yes.
And coming out of that and your day of silence, how about some reflections for people who heard the last podcast? And you know just as a recap, John has for decades, the July 10th every year is his day of silence. He can communicate in any other way other than voice, but that is his day to not speak.
Um, so I guess the first reflection I would have is that for me, it's not difficult. I mean, okay, I did break my silence once during the day.
I mean, come on. I've been working with you for a little over a year. Don't tell me it's not difficult for you to not speak.
It's a relief,
All right.
to be honest. I mean, I do. I love speaking. I love
All right.
talking. I love words. All of that is true of me. But there's a lot of energy that goes into speaking,
Hmm?
and when you stop speaking, that energy doesn't just disappear. It kind of builds up in a really subtle and beautiful way. Um, for one thing, your ears open up more. So you notice more than you would notice otherwise. You notice the sound of the birds, you notice the sound of the machines around you, and the cars driving by, and all of that, which is not an annoyance, it's just a fact, just a part of it. The wind blowing through. So that gets heightened to some extent. And when you're thinking of speaking, when you're about to speak, and for me, the way I do this is I kind of have like a mantra going in my brain, and And that little, repeated refrain is, I mean, I'm not going to repeat what it is because it's not valuable to anybody, but for me it reminds me to not speak because I'm focusing on that thing. So it's like thinking about your breath. If you're thinking about your breath, it's hard to speak at the same time because your brain is occupied.
Right.
Nevertheless, the thoughts come up. And when they come up, that what happens for me at least is I think that's interesting that I wanted to say that thing. And did I need to say it? And what if I don't say it? Well, I'm not going to say it.
Well, it's kind of like if you tell everybody, don't think about elephants, what's everybody thinking about?
Yeah. But the most enjoyable part of it, aside from, I mean, it's nice to be alone and be in nature and all of that. That's lovely. But the most enjoyable part is when I'm actually with other people or when I'm doing something that would be a normal thing to do and I'm not speaking. And to do the best I can to not make it a deal, so that nobody actually thinks about it. Because, of course, when they think about it, they think they have to be quiet too. If you go, I'm not speaking, they're quiet. And that's not the point. So so I've learned to become more demonstrative physically in a way that's not overbearing, that communicates the point, whatever it might be. But that also means that you need to think carefully about what's really important. What's the thing? Strip everything else away. That one thing that you need in order to communicate it. Is it money? Is it what time is it? Whatever. There are simple gestures you can do that communicate what time is it, and people will get that right away. And if you do it without making it a big deal, then it doesn't become a big deal for the other person,
Right.
and it makes the interaction with the other person more intimate, which is a really interesting part. That you think that in speaking you're communicating and you're really, typically speaking is one way. It's rare when people speak and are also listening. And oftentimes people, when they're listening, are listening for the chance to speak,
Right.
which is not listening. It is something quite different. So when
Yep.
you physically decided I am not going to speak, you stop listening to speak. Instead, you're listening to hear what's really going on in the other person when you're with somebody else. And the immediacy of intimacy with that other person is raised. So that's a great thing about it. The other thing that's kind of fun is for days afterwards, uh, when I'm ready to speak, that's not happening right now, but for days afterwards, I think, do I need to say that? What? Why would I say that? How can I be more economical?
I think one of the most iconic, talking about this and people's innate desire to speak, I think one of the most iconic things Hollywood did in regard to people's desire to speak was in Castaway with Tom Hanks.
Mhm.
And the desire to speak and communicate was so deep that he started speaking with Wilson,
Mhm.
the volleyball, and formed a relationship talking to an inanimate object, which I thought was pretty profound for a multitude of reasons, to the point where it became emotional when he lost Wilson. So it's interesting how we work
Do you know who
as human
Reinhold
beings.
Messner is?
I don't, but you're gonna tell me.
I am going to tell you. He I was the first person to climb the top 21 peaks in elevation, as I
Okay.
recall. He also was the first person to climb Mount Everest solo without oxygen.
What was the name?
Reinhold Messner.
Hmm, okay.
He wrote a book about it, which I read when I lived in India.
Okay.
And the reason this comes to mind is that on his way up, because of anoxia, he began forgetting what he was doing and why he was doing it. And so he'd take a step and go, "What am I doing?" And talk to his ice axe. Why? What are we doing here? And the axe would say, "You're climbing the mountain. Take another step."
Mm-mm. Keep going.
I'm paraphrasing, but it's a wonderful image for people who are trying to achieve a goal. That you set that goal, it's really easy in the world to forget what the goal is and to just, get distracted by all of the things in the world that distract you by your pain or by your lack or by your, fear or by other people and what they have to say or do. So if you can figure out a way, maybe it's an ice axe, I don't know, but whatever the way is to help yourself remember to take that one more step, then
I
it's more likely to achieve the goal that you're looking for.
think sometimes every real estate agent would love to have a nice ice axe in a transaction.
Yes, although that would be used for some other purpose than climbing up the mountain, I suspect.
You gotta love it. Well, hey, thank you for all your time today. It's great to see you,
It's always great to see you, Lloyd.
and thanks for everybody for joining us today. We'll see you here next time at Territorial Minds. I'm Lloyd Fox.